Where does that fall on the scale?
Just like just going to church on Sunday.
Going to church every Sunday.
For a kid, I feel like subjectively, yeah, I think it's bad, but it's not. I can't. There's no objective metrics I can map on to how that kid's gonna turn out. You get what I mean? Like, oh, you grew up in church, like as a kid. This is how you're gonna be.
But letting people know, where are we? What are we doing here?
We're in Arkansas, like the student secular
Secular Student Alliance.
secular student alliance conference in Arkansas.
All right, Little Rock.
Little Rock, yeah.
Yep. And what brought you to the conference?
Just went with my local club at my school. The sponsor was cool. Talked to him, and he got me to go. They needed a fifth member. I was like, yeah, I'm down.
Anybody I know?
Bob Spencer.
Sorry, I had to make you say it.
Oh yeah.
Everybody, a lot of people who watch this video might know Bob, so
Sure.
let's give him a little shout out. You
Yeah,
know,
shout out.
shout out Bob. All right, and I told you a little bit about street epistemology. You kind of asked about the history, and I
Yeah.
provided to the best of my ability. What do you think about the process a little bit? What was your first impression?
I think I think it's definitely cool. It's interesting. I feel like, especially in the climate that we're in today, it's probably important. I don't know how much can be gained from it, like as far as with certain people in our like society or whatever, just because they may not have thought out ideas or maybe they don't think about a lot of things. But it's good to get them to start thinking about those things. So I think this is
You agreed to an interview a little while ago. Probably had a little time to think about what you wanted to talk about. Um, did you have something in mind?
no,
Okay.
no.
Then I'll give you a prompt. Be hopefully pretty easy to decide. It can be anything, and I don't want you to talk about anything that might make you feel uncomfortable. What is something that is important to you that impacts your life that you really care about?
Like a thing or like issues.
It can be a thing, it can be an issue, it can be a belief, it can be a value, it can be anything.
Um, like conditions of people. So like a quality of condition. I think a big thing in my life personally has been like looking back, like growing up, the people that I was around, my family, the ways they talked to me, the ways they took care of me. I can see how this led to me having some degree of success, like academically and just in life in general. And I think it's pretty important that we not even like equality of opportunity, but first we must like make sure that like kids are in like they're growing up in good conditions. So whether that be like free lunch programs, summer food programs, ACs in all of the the classrooms, making sure that schools are like properly ran schools, good teachers. I think all that stuff's important because all it takes is just like one person, one teacher to just kind of put a student on a path to like being like a good student academically and like going to college, having some type of success. I think that's important.
Okay. So you listed a few examples. Let me kind of
Mhm.
go recap what you said, the process in my mind, and I'm going
Okay.
to try to make sure I understood you correctly.
Okay.
So you said conditions of people. I didn't really understand that at first,
Okay.
but it sounds like you're saying kind of how kids in particular grew up, like their upbringing, how whether they had enough to eat.
Yeah.
Possibly, you mentioned the lunch program,
Yeah.
whether or not they were maybe they had good role models. Is that kind of what you're getting at with a teacher, perhaps?
Yeah. Like I feel like a lot of that stuff kind of comes into like that's all part of the condition. So like where you grow up, the house that you grow up in, what's happening in the house that you grow up in, and then what schools are you going to? What's happening at those schools? What's not happening at those schools? Who are the teachers at those schools? That's kind of the stuff that I mean when I say condition. Like all these things, we live in conditions, and so it's not even me necessarily focusing on kids, but it's kind of where it starts. You
Gotcha.
know, So like I feel like I am the way that I am, not because like, oh, when I was a kid this happened, not because of that, but a lot of it started. That's where it started.
Snowball effect, kind of.
Yeah, if I wasn't in certain conditions, then I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Hmm.
Is there certain conditions that you would advocate for, and certain conditions that you would be opposed to?
I feel like there are just some conditions that are objectively bad. If a kid is going to a school and like they're hungry, and then they're going to go to a school with no AC, like that's a bad condition. I think anybody can have their own subjective viewpoints or subjective outlooks. And of course, some of them I will disagree with. If you're a very ultra religious, fundamentalist like type of family, and a kid is growing up in that community, and you want them to live a certain lifestyle, then yeah, I'll disagree with that. But I think that me disagreeing with that is different than me disagreeing with the idea that a kid should be hungry when they go to school. I think one is like more.
One's worse.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So there's kind of a gradient here. What would be on the bad side, but pretty close to the line? Is there an example you could give for that?
On the bad topic, pretty close to the line.
Yeah, like most of the time it's probably bad, but it won't be too bad.
Um, I think kind of what I said earlier, like religious, fundamental, like very, very religious. Maybe not even just like, oh, we go to church on Sunday. Not like that. Just like
Where does that fall on the scale?
just like just going to church on Sunday.
Going to church every Sunday.
For a kid, I feel like subjectively, yeah, I think it's bad, but it's not. I can't. There's no objective metrics I can map on to how that kid's gonna turn out. You get what I mean? Like, oh, you grew up in church, like as a kid. This is how you're gonna be, or this is how you like. I don't know how to map that on, so it's hard to call that just
Sure.
objectively bad.
So there might be some kids who attend church. Maybe they hold on to their religious
Mm.
belief, but then they generally have a lot of empathy for people, care about people, and aren't. Well, maybe ultra religious people also do have the same thing, but they're maybe misled by uh, some of the truth claims that they believe, which lead them to strategies that actually end up harming people without having that intent.
Mhm.
Um, does that resonate with you? What I said?
I think yes and no. Like, I feel like more so like what I mean is you can like I care about people being able to grow up in conditions that are conducive to some degree of success.
Hmm.
I feel like religious households, or private schools that have like a religious like undertone to them. I disagree with them subjectively, personally. Like, as in, I'm not a Christian myself,
Mhm.
but I don't know if that's a bad condition or an objectively bad condition for a child to grow up in.
Okay.
I'm more so talking about like economic outcomes. So like, is this child gonna have a proper home to grow up in? Is this child gonna be able to like get a job and take care of themselves? Because like a lot of our upbringing does very much impact those outcomes, and I don't know if there is so much impact about whether or not a child, is a Christian.
Gotcha. Okay, so you'd have to. What could you learn that could sway you? Like, you said that it's stretched. Hold on, noise.
Mhm.
What could you learn that could get you? You said that it's like going to church every Sunday is just barely on that side of the line that might be bad, but you're not really sure. You're just kind of leading that direction. And then you said like ultra religious, ultra. I forgot the word. You used.
Yeah, like fundamental.
Fundamental, yeah, that's the word. You said that's probably farther down that line into the bad category.
Mhm.
I guess let's talk about the fundamentals. Like, what could you learn or discover that um, that could shift your perspective? that might go from, yeah, that's really bad, to maybe being neutral?
On like fundamentalism,
Sure.
like those communities.
Yeah, like what could you learn that be like, wow, that really that turns out good for the kids sometimes.
I mean, I feel like I would just I think it's almost impossible because
Okay.
for me, I would need to know that every single kid that is growing up in these communities are
Mm,
like, yes, we buy into this. Like, we want this. I want fundamentalism to be a part of my future, and I want a barefoot and pregnant wife with 18 kids in a rural house somewhere. Like, if that's what they want, then I'm fine with that. So, like, if there was a way for us to just be able to, be shown that all of these fundamentalist kids, that they are going to become fundamentalists, like, truly fundamentalists. Yeah, they're going to do that just by themselves on their own. I think then I probably changed my viewpoint right now.
okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a good answer. Would that apply to pretty much anything that you could look at for, on this scale of what might be bad and what might be good? Would you use that same strategy to figure out everything?
Maybe not everything.
Okay.
Some things are objectively bad. Some things are subjectively bad.
Yeah.
I just think it just depends. I feel like there's a lot of influences that you can have in your house. Some may be good, some may be bad, and all of it may impact your outcomes or how you turn out. But I don't know if I put all of it on a scale or
Sure, we don't think about that all the
yeah.
time, and we don't
Yeah.
throw it on a scale like that. Yeah. I think we make judgments about that and make life decisions or form opinions based off, maybe we're not thinking about the scale, but do we have opinions about that anyways?
Like, let's say you grew up this type of way and it falls on the scale or whatever. Do I think about like, oh, this person kind of grew up?
Yeah, like, I mean, imagine you're going to have children.
Mhm.
That might be kind of weird thing for you to think about, but I apologize for the hypothetical.
Mhm.
Like, you may want to, you know, do things in a certain way because you want what's best for them. I assume you would want what's best for them.
Mhm.
They're your child, right?
Mhm.
So it's almost like we have to have these opinions, and then we take action based on them.
Yeah.
Would we, you know? So I guess kind of do we kind of put those on that scale, anyways, even if we're get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
It's a sloppy
I,
question. I'm
I
sorry.
I think I think it's hard because a lot of what I feel like I want to teach to my kids is it comes from how I was kind of raised. So it's hard, like,
Yeah.
because like we are putting on that scale, but it's like this is me, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Um. What? I got a question. I got a hypothetical. I want to share this little process with you. This
Okay.
tool that I use. It's okay. So I got this buddy of mine. He's actually not from this planet. He's an alien. His name's Alan. Nice guy. You'd love him. But he doesn't know anything about human beliefs, human culture, how we grew up, anything like that. He actually just landed a little while ago. I just met him at the conference. Okay, he landed out over there, and he comes in and he hears us talk, and he hears we're talking about the scale where it's like the bad, good, and we're kind of talking about where we would put stuff, objective, subjective, and he would want to know how we figure out where to place these things on that scale. How do you think how do you think the best way for Alan to place these things on the scale to be? How does he figure that out?
Um, I probably say how many people does like this belief or this opinion? How many people like does it harm? So I guess just impact on society is maybe like how I come to those conclusions. Maybe.
Gotcha. Okay, so he would probably use the same conclusion that you would, or the same method, I should say, and
Yeah.
come to the same conclusion. Do you think he could come to a different conclusion? Like let's say he spent a little time on Earth figuring things, exploring.
Mhm.
Do you think he'd come to the same conclusion as you?
Probably not.
Oh, really? Why do you think that is?
Mm, I don't know. I think it's kind of easy to just say like, oh, whatever is bad for the most amount of people, I'm against that thing.
Hmm.
It's very easy to say that, but I think like an alien, like if they came here, they probably have a lot of technology to analyze all the different issues that people care about,
Mm,
and maybe we'd find out that like, yeah, you hold the opinion that's the correct opinion right now or for societal purposes, but you're not really right, or
mm,
so
interesting.
could very well like disagree with me just because I feel like my opinions are right, but
Okay.
they may not hold up to the whole like, oh, how much harm is being done to how many people. So
It sounds like you would have to value the having empathy and not wanting others to be harmed. That's
mhm.
kind of sounds like the core of where you would put these things on the scale. If you didn't have that, your scale would probably look different, I think. Or am I misunderstanding?
It probably would look different, but maybe not as in like a rearranging of different things, but maybe like just certain things disappearing. Honestly,
Oh, it's like you almost wouldn't matter really.
yeah, would not. Like that's why I say like the going to church on Sunday, like it's like I don't personally agree with it, but like
Like it doesn't not really
just
hurting anyone necessarily. I mean, maybe it is if
yeah.
depending, but yeah. Okay, gotcha. If Alan had the same exact technology we had, and he had the same care for people. He met some people and he was like, "These people are awesome. I have a lot of empathy for these people. I want what's best for these people." You think his he would have placed the items in the same order, same location as you at that point?
Probably not.
No, still not. Just difference of opinion.
Yeah, I mean, once again, I feel like my upbringing, like my experiences,
Okay.
is like they just heavily influence how I place everything on that scale. And so if an alien comes, like it's just they can they may have a similar, like if they had the same technology and stuff, and same degree of empathy, they may have a similar like scale to me, but it won't like replicate mine because it won't have my experiences, and those experiences that
Okay.
like how they influence.
So these experiences are like the core of what shapes our strategy to forming where we place these items on the scale.
Mm,
If there's a word you don't understand, I can clarify.
I don't know if they like. All right, say it again. Say it again.
Okay, let me try to remember what I said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So our life
Mhm,
experiences shape our strategy where we place these
mhm.
items on the scale.
I don't know if they shape. Uh,
They
like
influence.
they definitely influence. They're definitely a factor, but I wouldn't say it's. I definitely think you can't get my scale without my experiences, but I don't know if my experiences heavily influence how I present my scale or where I put on my scale and where I put it on my scale. I don't think it shapes it. I think it definitely influences it, but I don't know to what degree. But it definitely has to be there.
All right, we've been going for almost 20 minutes now, so we probably should get to the Seth Andrews thing.
Uh,
But before we wrap up, do you have any questions for me or any final words?
like just any random question.
Anything you'd like to ask? Open book here.
Oh, what's the biggest problem in the world today, right now,
It's the
in
biggest
your
problem.
opinion? Yeah.
I think the biggest problem in the world are people are choosing poor strategies to fulfill their needs. And I can give you an example. Um, Sometimes ultra religious people, or sometimes ultra, or people who believe, let's say, this vaccine is causing harm. And let's say they're mistaken about that, right? And they will choose a strategy. They'll be like, I need to protect people. I need to protect people from this vaccine. I need to protect people from hell. I need to do these things. I love people. I need to do this because I have empathy for these people. And they might choose a strategy that doesn't actually accomplish that, right? So they might say, I'm not giving my kid this vaccine. I'm going out protesting the vaccines. I'm going to try to pass a law that makes this vaccine illegal. I'm going to make this sin illegal so people won't commit this sin so that they will go have a afterlife, right? I think they're choosing strategies that don't actually fulfill that need in accordance to reality, fortunately. I think that's the biggest problem that we face. I know it's broad. I know that encompasses a lot. That's what I'd say. And people don't communicate very well.
Nice.
I think if people were able to have conversations where we're able to communicate our needs, our feelings, and if we could articulate how we came to our conclusions and really investigate those, I think we could make a better. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah.
A little bit long-winded. But...
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before I end it?
Nope.
All right. It's been a pleasure.
Say what you just said, but say it again.
I really like how, like, when we were speaking, when we were talking, I could like feel the connections of like you explaining street epistemology to me, especially through the way like you would question me, and of course we would have a back and forth, but internally I would also be like thinking about things that I've never thought about before, and I'm a person that really likes to think about things. And just the way that you would frame certain questions, and even the alien hypothetical, it just made me question how I was questioning what I was questioning. Like, literally, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for repeating that after I turned off the recording.
Yeah.